What's going on, everybody? It's been a little while, and I have quite a few videos that I'm going to be trying to work on today and tomorrow. But my first one here is the OnePlus 8T. Yes, sir. As you can see, I got the pop-up box, and I actually received it. Whew, I think 2 or 3 days before retail. Yeah, I think it was about 3 days before retail. I have now had it for a week and a half, and there's quite a few things that I want to talk about with this device. As you can see, it is a huge, huge package. Again, this is the pop-up. This is the pop-up box here. This is, I should say, all of this. But when you purchase it, it's gonna come in this box here. There's your red, Type-C cable, your 65-watt warp charger. This is where it comes in. I just have it propped up, have it up there for you. Of course, there's your invitation letter. Has some other things in there for literature. There's the 8T box right there. This and this is, essentially what you're going to get when you order it from OnePlus's website, or if you order the 8T Plus variant from T-Mobile, which of course T-Mobile's Plus variant really isn't a plus other than having an official IP rating. But there may be another difference too. I can't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter. This is not the T-Mobile version. This is the unlocked version from OnePlus's website. Again, this is the awesome pop-up box here. So shout out to them for this here. This is pretty awesome here. There's a lot in here. Got the OnePlus Buds here. And this cool case. This phone didn't come with the case, but the pop-up box did. And it's sitting underneath it is the box that the case comes with. There's the Team Speed card that I got with it here. But we are obviously here to talk about the retail device itself, the OnePlus 8T. And, here's the device right here. And USB Type-C there. Obviously there, your power and your mute switch there. Typical OnePlus fashion, which I do really like. There's your camera there. It is a quadruple camera setup. The OnePlus T series always, ever since last year when OnePlus introduced the Pro models, the T's have since then been in a very odd spot. Even more so this year than last year, because last year they still had a Pro T variant. Even though the 7T came out by itself, there was still a 7T Pro variant that came out shortly after. They had a 7T Pro, a 7T Pro McLaren, and then they also had a 7T Pro 5G McLaren on T-Mobile, which is on my channel. I reviewed that back in January, I think. But when the 7T came out, a lot of people were confused of its placement. It was above the 7, which was never released in the United States, but it sat below the 7 Pro in terms of design, and I also think the price, if I'm not mistaken. And I say design because the 7T had the same the same teardrop notch that the standard 7 had earlier in the year. It didn't have the pop-up camera that the 7 Pro had, but the 7T internally was a better phone. It was an upgrade even from the 7 Pro, because you were getting the Snapdragon 855 Plus versus the Snapdragon 855 standard. But you had to decide if that was a good enough upgrade if you already had a 7 Pro. If you had a 7, it was obviously an upgrade, because the 7 also only had a 60 Hz display, whereas the 7T had the 90 Hz like the 7 Pro had. And of course, the 7T Pro kept that 90 Hz display. It kept the pop-up camera. It just had better cameras than the Snapdragon 855 Plus. Because even the 7T's cameras kind of sat in between the 7 and 7 Pro, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. There's a lot of confusion there. The 8T really makes things even more confusing. And towards the end, I'm going to tell you what I really just don't like. Aesthetically, the device is great. This texture on the back here, it's glass, but it's frost, and it's not as grippy as I felt with other phones, but it is definitely very nice though. It's really nice in the hands. It really is. It feels fantastic. It has your hole punch display there. This is this is weird. Usually the T's always get the Qualcomm Plus processor treatment. It gets the Plus treatment. And not every year that OnePlus has had T phones has there been a Plus variant to the to the latest Snapdragon. This year there was, but it came later on in the game. But Qualcomm did come out with a Snapdragon 865 Plus. But it came out so late that the phones that you really thought would have it didn't have it. This is one example right here. The 8T does not have the Plus. It has the regular 865. If y'all remember a review I did a couple months ago on the Red Magic 5S, another phone that you thought would have had the 865 Plus, it didn't. It had the 865 standard that the Red Magic 5G had already had. But what's weird here is that every benchmark I have watched or read about the 8T right here, except one, and that one was very odd, which I'll mention here shortly. Just like with the Red Magic 5S versus the 5G predecessor, the OnePlus 8T right here scores astronomically higher than the 8 and 8 Pro, despite having the same exact processor. This variant right here has 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs internal, but it scores exceptionally higher than the 8 and 8 Pro with the same processor. It's almost like the difference it would have had if it had the Snapdragon 865 Plus. There is just one review I've seen where it actually scored less than the standard 8, which was very odd. Something was definitely going on there. And the Red Magic 5S was the same. It scored astronomically higher than the Red Magic 5G, which was already scoring ahead of the competition earlier this year. But those Red Magic phones, ZTE, Nubia, they do something really exceptional for the optimization because they don't cheat. That's been proven. But they do something exceptional with their optimization, even though they don't run full stock Android, the OnePluses don't either, but they run a lot closer to stock than the Red Magics do. So Red Magics are just optimized super well. They always end up being some of the highest scoring phones. But this phone, it scores higher than, on most benchmarks anyway, it does score higher than the 8 and 8 Pro. You would really think it had the Snapdragon 865 Plus, but it just has the standard 865. So, what are the upgrades? Well, as with the 7T last year, besides the processor, it was an upgrade from the 7, but not the 7 Pro. Again, the processor made it an upgrade from the 7 Pro, though, but I've already touched on that. But, the standard 8 had a 90Hz display. The 8 Pro is the one that stepped it up a notch and went to 120. Well, the 8T right here takes the standard 8 and makes it 120. 120Hz AMOLED. They say it's the best AMOLED, the best flat AMOLED ever made because this one's flat. It is 6.55 inches. It's definitely aesthetically, it is closer to the 8 than the 8 Pro. But it does have, what DisplayMate has said is the best flat AMOLED, the best flat display ever made. I really can't argue there. The display is absolutely gorgeous. It's weird. For some reason, to me, I kind of feel like the Pixel 5 screen looks better to me. I don't know why. It's smaller and it's 90 hertz. I do have that, and I'll be doing a review on that shortly as well. Or not a review, but a quick overview. Not even quick anymore. I keep yapping, but I'll do one of my overviews on that as I'm doing here. Y'all know I got my own terminology because this isn't really a review. But the phone flies. Again, 12 gigs of RAM. You can't beat that. Well, I mean, there's other phones with 16 gig options, I know. So let me be careful saying you can't beat that, but you know what I mean here. Uh, Definitely the fastest commercial wired charging available. Yes, this phone lacks wireless charging, which if they were to make an 8T Pro, it would have that because the 8 Pro has it, but OnePlus has said that there's not going to be an 8T Pro. So the 8T is the T this year. The cameras, again, they sit between the 8 and the 8 Pro. This does get higher benchmarks than the 8 Pro, as if it had the 865 Plus, kind of like last year where the 7T was more powerful than the 7 Pro. It was just up to you to really, if you really thought it was an upgrade or not, because you would, because if you went from the 7T Pro to the 7T, you lost the pop-up camera. And of course, they did come out with a 7T Pro, but it was also a lot more expensive. The 7T, I thought, was priced phenomenally last year. I never did get it because I ended up getting the 7T Pro 5G McLaren from T-Mobile. But performance-wise, I have been very impressed with this phone. I did not have the 8 Pro, but I did have the 8 very briefly, and I wasn't impressed with it, to say the least. One of the big problems I found with the 8 was that, and it's a problem I found with the 8T right here as well, but I've since then learned a way around it, but it's a very inconvenient way around it. As many of you know, I do get AT&T 5G where I'm at. I also get T-Mobile 5G where I'm at. I'm big on 5G. Most of my phones this year have all been 5G. I almost renamed my channel and just made it exclusive to 5G phones. But I have since then had a couple of non-5G phones since I was thinking about doing that, and it wouldn't make sense because I do still get a few non-5G phones. Good, really, really, really good phones at that. Not just the Pixel 4a, but that blue G90 Pro that I had. If y'all remember that, I was very impressed with that phone. But on OnePlus's website, they fully support T-Mobile 5G on this phone, but they also explicitly say that they don't support AT&T 5G on this phone, even though it has band N5 for 5G NR on AT&T. So what gives? And sure enough, when you put your AT&T SIM in this, it doesn't register as, it only registers LTE, not 5G. The OnePlus 8 I had earlier this year did the same exact thing. It drove me nuts. I had all of the right APNs. I tried 3 different APNs. None of them worked. AT&T just, they said it wasn't certified for their network. But I have gotten numerous Xiaomi phones this year where I just dropped my SIM in and got 5G. I don't get 5G where I live at, which is where I'm at right now. But, man, I don't even have to go a half a mile down the road and I get 5G. And I get 5G almost everywhere else in this city. It's getting closer to my house because sometimes I actually do have it. I do actually have it sometimes. But for me to be able to pop a SIM in a Xiaomi phone and get 5G, a foreign Chinese Xiaomi phone, but not get it out of because some of those Xiaomi phones that 5G does work on are non-global, variants, Chinese variants. It does work more so on the global models, but I do have a few non-globals that 5G worked on with AT&T. With the OnePlus 8, I just never figured out a workaround. I got rid of it. It just, I wasn't happy. When I had the 7T 5G McLaren unlocked, it didn't work on AT&T 5G, but it also didn't have the 5G bands for AT&T. That was a T-Mobile exclusive, and it worked great on T-Mobile. That wasn't the issue there. But I do use AT&T more than T-Mobile. It is my daily. It's my go-to. But the big issue, that is the big issue, and there's no reason why this doesn't work on AT&T 5G. Even if OnePlus doesn't officially want to support it, there's no reason why it shouldn't work still. For a company that says never settle, they are making a lot of... They're doing too much. Let me say it like that. They are doing way, way, way too much. And I respect this brand. I love OnePlus. I'm a big fan of theirs, but they have been slipping. Not even with the price and the budget phones and stuff like that. They're rectifying that. The 8T right here is priced somewhat competitively. It's 750 if I'm not mistaken. Um, Shoot, it may have been eight. Yeah. No, it was 750. Not bad for what you're getting. Again, you're getting the best flat AMOLED panel money can buy. And you're getting 120 hertz instead of 90 hertz. You're getting really good cameras. For the money. You're getting the fastest wired charging. You're still getting a powerful flagship processor that benchmarks along with the Plus variant. 12 gigs of RAM. No expandable memory, but that's typical OnePlus fashion. It does have 256 gigs internal, which you can't really beat. OnePlus is doing other things to also, I guess you would say, kind of remember where they came from, their roots, the affordable flagship killers. Because as I've always said, a flagship killer doesn't necessarily have to have the flagship processor to be a flagship killer. It could have the next best thing and be a flagship killer, with the Nord series, the latest Nords announced, which are coming to America, the N10 5G and the N100, and I'm actually more impressed out of the Snapdragon 690 than I am the Snapdragon 765. The reason why is because the 690 has Cairo 500 series cores, their Cortex A77 versus the Cairo 400 series Cortex A76 is found in the Snapdragon 765. It's really just a lower clock 765 that was basically intentionally underclocked so it wouldn't, be faster than the 765 because it's actually a generation ahead when you take in the main cores that the processor is built with. It just kind of seems like everything else that was put in it to slow it down was intentionally done. So on paper, obviously a 765 you would think would be faster than a 690, and by intentionally doing things to slow the 690 down to make it slower, the 765 is going to maintain that lead. But if it wasn't for those things, it's the 690 is actually a more modern chipset, so to speak. It's technology-wise, it's closer to the 865 because of the Cairo 500 series cores, the Cortex A77. But that's a different story. I'm kind of getting off the track there. That's something I'll have to touch on more if I ever get my hands on a Snapdragon 690 power phone. But and I probably will. It'll be either the Nord 10 5G or the upcoming LG K92 5G by LG that was just announced today. I plan to get the Cricket model. But anyways, OnePlus I know a lot of people say that they've forgotten where they came from, their roots. I wouldn't go that far. They're making up for that with other devices. They can't help but raise the prices of their main lineup of phones because Qualcomm raises the prices of their main premium processor. So I mean, Xiaomi even goes up on their prices, and Xiaomi makes very little profit on their phones. They've always made very little profit. They've announced that. They've never hit that fact. But even they have to occasionally go up on their prices because Qualcomm goes up on their prices. And if you want those processors in their phones, they have to, like it or not, they still have to make something, off the top. And they can't just come out with a phone and make absolutely nothing, But I have learned a trick to get 5G working on the 8T. And I'm sure it will work on the 8 as well. If I still had it, I would test it, which I don't have anymore. I'm sure it will work on the 8 Pro as well. I'm pretty positive it suffers from the same limitation. And I know other people probably have already found this out. The 8 and 8T have been out long enough for other people to find this out. This isn't something that just came out. I actually remember this trick. I've used it before on another phone before 5G. This was to get LTE working on a phone a few years back. It's a hidden Qualcomm cellular menu. I'm sure many of you already know it. I've used it before, but when I was trying to remember it with the 8, because I really thought it would be able to fix my problem, And it did on this phone right here, the 8T. But when I had the 8, I couldn't remember it. And I searched for it, and I guess I just wasn't putting the right search inquiries in because I couldn't find it. And I had it written down somewhere years ago, and I never knew what I did with it. Never needed it again, obviously. I didn't think I was going to need it, years later. But here we are. I'm needing it, and it's only on OnePlus phones, which is absurd if you ask me. This is never settled, and this is just absurd. I shouldn't have to do this. This is what really annoys me. But I have it saved right. It's a picture I have. Because obviously I don't get 5G at my house really with AT&T anyway, so I can't really prove it to you. I don't have the SIM card in right now. But for those that don't know, if you type that code in right there, the star pound 4636 pound star, you can go into the settings and obviously, as you can see there, this was for the OnePlus 8 and OnePlus 7 5G anyways. But sure enough, you can change the setting to NR, LTE, TDS, CDMA, CDMA, FDO, GSM, WCDMA. That's the setting that you're going to want it on because that'll make sure that everything else still works as well. That'll get your 3G, your 3.5G, your fake HSPA plus 4G working, CDMA and FDO, 2G and 3G services for Verizon and Sprint variants. And of course, LTE for true 4G and NR for 5G. And I can confirm that it did work. I had actually did that on this phone with my AT&T SIM card when I was 5 miles away at the park I normally use to run at. And the phone was displaying LTE at the time. And as soon as I changed that setting, it switched over to 5G. The problem is when you have to reset the phone or restart it, you have to go back and do that because it resets the network setting. There was even a time when I was using the phone didn't freeze, the phone didn't lock up, but for whatever reason, maybe AT&T was doing some testing in the area. I lost connection for a split second, and when it came back on, it reverted back to LTE, and I was otherwise getting 5G where I was at. And when I went into the normal system settings where you would change that at, where it doesn't have the option for NR, it was reverted back to the stock LTE option, and I had to go back, type in that little code there, and I was able to get it back on 5G, and it only did that one time, but that's just a hassle. I shouldn't have to do that. I mean, right now, as we speak, the phone I'm using to record this is the all-new Xiaomi Mi 10T. And 5G works on it. Yeah, it's the global variant, but it's a phone that's not officially sold in the U.S. It'll probably never officially be sold in the U.S. The Chinese version of this phone is called the Redmi K30S Ultra, which is the Chinese variant. This is the global. The global was actually announced before the Chinese variant. This is the Mi 10T 5G, the non-Pro variant, which I'll do an overview shortly on as well. But anyways, y'all, I just wanted to touch on this OnePlus 8T. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Great running phone, feels great, looks great. Stockish Android 11. The only phone besides the Pixel 5 and the Pixel 4a 5G that you can get with Android, with Android 11 out of the box. But the whole 5G thing, man, just really bugs me. The price $750, it's not bad. But with phones like the Galaxy, S20 5G Fan Edition, I'm not the biggest Samsung fan. I'm not big on their interface, but there's just excuse my phone going off, y'all. Got a little business going on in the background, but anyways, if you're a big OnePlus fan, I mean, I can recommend it, especially if you're on T-Mobile, for $750. But the whole 5G thing with AT&T, it's I don't know. But I mean, if you're T-Mobile, it's definitely a go. If you're AT&T and you don't mind punching in that code anytime you need to, and the network gets reset, and you're a big OnePlus fan, I would also say to go. I just think because there's better out, or phones out around the same price that you may or may not like, more or less, give or take. I'll kind of let y'all figure out your opinions there. But anyways, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. I have a few other videos coming up shortly, so I will see y'all in those. Peace out.